Okay, hello, welcome back. I am actually playing as Jacob, who I usually play as Evie, so it's going to be an interesting change. And the reason I'm doing this is because of a rather interesting conversation I had on Twitter earlier today. So, just give you the background. Apparently, there's a game called Apex. Hadn't really heard about it. It doesn't really interest me. You like it? That's all cool. Leaping of faith enough here. But I'm gonna get back up on the roof. Because roofs are more fun. That was weird. So, yeah, don't really know too much about it. Didn't look all that interesting to me. But apparently, one of the characters in it is gay, but you don't really know that. It's only listed in their bio. So, apparently somebody was playing the game and then discovered the character was gay, and the person who was playing them was heterosexual, and they, found it a little bit upsetting, because I think they related to the character, and then, suddenly the character has, a different sexual orientation as they do. And which for me, that's not really that big of a deal. I mean, it's, it's not that big of a deal. If you'd prefer to play, as a heterosexual character, which is, if you're heterosexual and you prefer to play as a heterosexual character, that's fine. If you're homosexual and you prefer to play as a homosexual character, that's fine too. It's really something that's not that big of a deal. But, this person was kind of upset and, kind of wished that the character they were playing as wasn't homosexual. So somebody gave a response to that. I wonder where I can go from here. Ooh. Let's turn around. I should have to go back. Okay. So they were, somebody gave a response saying, well, they should make all main characters homosexual. Was the response somebody gave, and I chimed in because I play video games and I'm heterosexual, so I would prefer to be able to play, I don't mind, playing a character of any sort, but, I like to be able to connect with the character, and if the only characters out there I can play are homosexual characters, I'm going to find it harder to connect. So I just made that point and had some interesting back and forth between a lot of people. Turns out, after a lot of back and forth, that the comment was just directed specifically at that particular game, not at all games. So, I'm not going to play the game, so it doesn't really affect me, but... and, yeah, fair point. So, but what became really interesting was somebody, sent me a message. Now, I have, on my Twitter feed, the picture I use is one of Jacob Fry. I figured I should use a video game character picture. I, would have felt awkward, choosing, a female video game picture because, I'm male. Even though I often play female characters. You'd think I'd be able to swing over to that big building. Regardless. So, I use Jacob Fry because, I like this game, and, I like him as a character. I think he's one of the better Assassin's Creed characters. Him and Evie, I think, are right up there as being just great characters in Assassin's Creed, which, Assassin's Creed just hasn't been done very well character-wise. A lot of the characters I just find to be jerks. That's all I'm saying. So, anyway, moving on. Chose Jacob Fry. Just, like the game, like the character. And somebody said, well, the character that you have on your image is bisexual. At which point I said, what? Because I'd never heard that. There's really... nothing in this game that indicates that he's bisexual. Now, there were two pieces of evidence that this person presented. I'm going to present them to you, to be perfectly honest. One is one of the creators, who talks about that Jacob is exploring his sexuality. That was kind of their basis for the character in creating it, which... hey, if that helps you create the character, that's fine, but, doesn't mean I have to kind of conform to your view of the character. Which, I'll get into that in detail, because it's kind of an interesting philosophical concept that I was talking about. But the second one was the Roth levels. So there is segment 8, I believe, is what it is. I don't know why I'm saying this. Let me just look it up and tell you right now. Progression log and progress tracker. It is, I believe, sequence 8. Yeah, Roth. So it is sequence 8. You encounter this guy named Maxwell Roth. And he's an older gentleman. He's kind of... It actually reminds me of kind of when teenagers hang out with older people who they think are cool, but are pretty bad influences. That's what the entire sequence reminded me of, because he was... and, you know, it kind of... They work together for most of them, but it ends when Roth essentially is about to blow up a factory that has children working in it. And Jacob stops him. Now... So what makes us kind of people look at it and say, well, there's a sexual component in it is for me personally, you know, a lot of people interpret this differently, and that's a major factor in what I'm talking about. But for me personally, the only thing that was really had anything that might be interpreted as homosexuality in it is after you finally assassinate Roth, it goes into that animus style. Yes. You get an animus style conversation with them, which is typical of the game series, and you know, which. You know, I've often wondered exactly how real they are and so on, but at the end of it, when he's basically... Roth is just showing himself for just as a pure hedonist, he grabs Jacob and kisses him on the lips. And Jacob, at least the way I interpreted his actions was, he was, you know, disgusted. He didn't want to be kissed. He found it, you know, disgusting. Not so much, not in you know, homophobic sense or anything like that, in that this is a horrible human being and I don't want him touching me type sense. You know, nowhere did I get that Jacob was, you know, sexually interested or attracted to him. Like I said, their dialogue and conversation came off more as, you know, a young man basically, you know, meeting an older cool guy and kind of, you know, going down, you know, paths that he probably shouldn't, but eventually, you know, finding out that, hey, this is not where who I am and where I want to be. That's how I see their, yeah, I guess I'm going there. That's how I see their dialogue and their conversation going. So, but the person I was talking to cited just their back and forth and saying that it was completely full of sexual tension, which I don't see at all. So, you know, so I discussed this, and I presented, you know, what for me is one of the most liberating concepts that someone who watches fiction, you know, basically likes any sort of entertainment can have, which is the idea that the creator's vision for what they're doing doesn't have to be our vision. And, you know, one of the sources I cite quite often was... J.K. Rowling, after the Harry Potter books were out, made an announcement that Dumbledore, the headmaster there, was actually gay. Now, I hate it when I had tree and fall. So, which, you know, wasn't how I saw the character. I always saw him as being secretly married to another professor at the school, McGonagall. I fell again. I'm not doing too well in the sliding department at the moment. And, you know, and the thing about it is, you know, I don't have to conform. I don't have to consider Dumbledore gay. I don't have to get rid of my entire idea that he was secretly married, simply because the creator of the series viewed the character as homosexual. His sexuality doesn't factor into the story at all. And honestly, if Jacob's bisexual, it actually doesn't factor into the story at all. And it really doesn't. His interactions with Roth can be interpreted, like I said, two different ways. Young man meeting an, older guy who seems to be cool but turns out to be a really bad influence is how I view it. But you can view it as, full of sexual tension if that's the way you want to see it. And that's really kind of the idea. The person I was talking to was very adamant that I, see the characters as homosexual. And even though I said, hey, I don't agree with your point, with this is how I view it. I don't agree with how you're viewing it. But you know what? I respect how you're viewing it. I have to get away from the unstable data area. I respect your views, your ideas about the characters. That's fine. You are welcome to see this character in this way. I'm not stopping you. I just happen to see him in a very different way. And that's what's so liberating about it. Each person who plays this game can perceive Jacob in any way they want. One of the early game playthroughs I saw, it was one of the outside Xbox ones, they referred to Jacob as a hilarious idiot. They found it to be really, really funny and, kind of, naively stupid in it. And, you can see him that way. You can see him as kind of a young... I see him as kind of, a bit naive, young, inexperienced, but, ultimately wanting and trying to do the right thing. And that's fine. You can see any character in anything you watch however you want. And even if the creator comes out and says, well, this character is obviously this way, you don't have to see that character in that regard, especially if it's not a part of the story. And even if it does become later a part of the story, you can just say, meh, and disregard that, for your own. It's called headcanon, essentially how you view the story. Once again, I'm in the unstable data area. How does this keep happening? I think I'm just getting turned around. So anyway, that was, just a quick look at kind of this, what I find to be a very liberating thought for us people who play video games or read books or watch movies, is that, we don't have to see the characters in exactly the same way that the people who created the characters or who write for the characters see them. We can define the characters however we want. And, I think that's all to the good. So, Jacob, I will see as a naive, nice guy. Don't see him at all as bisexual. He did have a granddaughter, if you follow the game thing. So, yes, he could theoretically be bisexual, but, I see him as heterosexual, and that's fine. If you want to see him differently, that's also fine. Just, see and like all the characters the way you want to see and like them. So anyway, like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Bye.